Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Today we have a very special guest, Ellie Johnson, president of Berkshire Hathaway New York Properties, legend on her own, legend in real estate business. Here she is. Let me invite her in. Hello, everyone. Just send us some waves. Can you hear us? How's the sound? Perfect. Here we are. Hello, Ellie.
How are you, Tatiana? Listen, perseverance.
I know exactly. That's the rule number one in real estate.
Yes.
So, thank you so much for accepting my invitation to do that.
Thank you for inviting me.
Before we're gonna go towards real estate markets about what's happening there, I wanted to ask you to talk a little bit about your own path. I know that you came to New York 30 years ago?
20.
20 years ago, okay.
I'm still young.
I know. You look perfect, so you look beautiful. That's the most important.
Thank you.
Hi, guys. So, did you know right away that you're going to practice real estate?
When I started on the West Coast, so
Right.
I know your market really well. I'm actually just finishing my continuing ed for my broker's license in California, which I came back.
Fantastic news.
But I started my career in 1989 or so, thereabouts. My husband was born and raised in New York. So I knew I was someday going to be living in New York full time. That was a promise, not a threat. But I had a wonderful real estate career in the East Bay area in San Francisco. And I ended up with my own team, building my team. Actually, when Keller Williams came into the landscape of real estate, they offered me to go work for them, but it was not the business model for me then, and it isn't. Fast forward, I had a very successful career. I moved to New York in 2000, so it's exactly 20 years ago. So I knew that I was going to continue to do in real estate. What I didn't know is how different the markets were and the business practices. And that was, I always say, I feel like I was Alice in Wonderland and I fell into the hole. And I decided that if I was going to conquer New York, I needed to start my own company. So I started my own company in 2000, end of 2000, 2001, was very successful. And I ended up being purchased by Sotheby's in what's called a small acquisition. So it's a walkover.
So your company was purchased by Sotheby's?
Yeah. So I went to work for Sotheby's on the Upper East Side in Manhattan, which is where I do.
Yeah.
And the rest is history, you know.
How long did you work with your own company?
In New York, in New York City for 5 years.
For 5 years.
And I was in the black 2 years into the business. And it was fun. My office was on 57th and 5th Avenue. I was in an executive business suite at the Crown Building, which is now version. And the Playboy corporate offices were in the building. So every time I walked in and out of my building, there was always a tourist taking a picture with the engraving on the, the plaque on the entrance of the building that say Playboy, So that was fun. Good way to pick up clients. Maybe the wrong clients, but clients nonetheless. But it's been an amazing journey. And I must say that, Tatiana, you have worked in both markets as well. And now you fully understand the integration and the practices. And, and real estate, real estate is real estate anywhere in the world, but it has to be as global as we are, and as especially you who speak multiple language, have lived everywhere in the world, and have done real estate in different markets. The one common denominator is obviously our core values, our ethics, really putting our clients' needs first to be successful.
Absolutely.
And to me, that's the main recipe for success.
For success.
I hope I answer the long.
Yes, absolutely. How you know how to pick the workers when they come to you? How you know how to trust?
You know,
because it's about transparency and trust, obviously. So
yeah, it's a very tricky function for when you're in management and that side of the chair. And I think coming back from a upbringing of from the grounds up in real estate, it allows you to be able to see through that lens when you're interviewing that person and know. Obviously, the first is instinct, right? Just like my job today, you could equate it to you are prospecting for listings and buyers and sellers, and prospecting for talent. Right. And you use a lot of the same business practices to do that. And the way that I do my selection, and we make mistakes, we're humans, it's like clients. Sometimes you interview a client and the interview is fascinating and you're in love with them, and a week later, after the listing started, you want to pull your hairs out and fire them. It happens to us too, but you know, you try to minimize risk. And for me, there are certain criteria, and I think there are two very important questions that I ask potential recruits, which I wish I had known when I was interviewing to become a real estate agent, or somebody had told me. And they're very critical to the direction that your business is going to take and the growth opportunities of how long it's going to take you to get there. Because we can all get there to the success level, to the success story in real estate. That's one of the beautiful things about real estate, right? That you are running your own business and you are really your captain of your ship. You are your own CEO. But the company you're associated with and the reputation is key. But the two elements that are really important and relevant, and I always ask, is you want to ask the person what their short-term and long-term goals are. And the reason why they're getting into real estate. And I know I'm probably stereotyping, but when somebody starts with, I love real estate and I love seeing homes, you know, that's great. However, is not what is going to make you a successful broker. You know, I want to know that this is a career choice for you, that this is a very thought out process. I'm willing to work with you and wait. And there are many people that have done that and are quite successful that I interviewed, where they came to me at the time where they were doing a transition in their careers. And I said, you know, honestly, at this point, I don't think you are prepared for what you want. I think you have the talent, but the most important question is also, you have to truly, honestly have financial stability to be able to develop a good, strong foundation to service your clients properly. And it doesn't matter what price point you're going to service. And a lot of people have such a desire to succeed and to do well that they lie to themselves. And I tell you that in management, like I said, we are going to make mistakes. It's important to make those corrections right away. And within 6 months, I can guarantee you that if you were not financially stable, I am going to see the red flags and the signs of the stress levels that you're having, because it takes truly 3 to 5 years to get established and transition into a environment of work where you are really bringing in a steady income. And you develop, but it's all about your foundation. So I hope I answer your question.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I know that a lot of people think that being manager, it's nice social status, nice salary, while they don't understand that it's huge, huge responsibility that you take. So when you choosing someone, it's very important that you trust and you really put yourself out there with this person. It's your name goes together with it. And I know that you've been doing an amazing job with that. When I've been telling you many times, my first experience with you when I saw you in this room with a lot of very successful agents, millionaires, and you were able to work with each ego nicely, smoothly, and we're able to guide them and direct them the way you wanted them to go. That's what's very amazing. But because again, it was very respectful at the same time. So
Thank you.
that's when I was like, wow, that's a guru. That takes a lot to do that for sure.
Thank you, Tatiana. Well, you're part of that success story, right? When I met you, you were running a very successful operation for the prior company we both worked at in a very high, powerful role of business development. And you transition well, like most of us, right? Everybody comes from somewhere.
Yeah.
Coming to New York, and not only New York City, but you know, culturally and business practices are very difficult. But I think that the respect is earned by being able to provide a service to our salespeople, just like you provide a service to your clients. The respect clients comes from your business knowledge. It comes from how you navigate a transaction for them. And, you know, we serve all these different roles. We're the financial advisor. Sometimes without crossing the line, are just validating what their legal counsel is telling them to do. And or sometimes we are the referees between family members.
Of course, yeah, that happens too.
In our business, we deal with the streams of joy when somebody gets married or has a baby and they want to upgrade their homes, to somebody's death or divorce and everything else in between. And it's not different, my role today, dealing with internally with my sales team as my clients, you dealing with the end user consumer, whether it's a buyer or a seller. So I think it's important for me. I always knew that I wanted to treat my sales team in the way that I wanted to be treated by my management. And I was fortunate to have great leaders before me that gave me a lot of wisdom and knowledge through my career, which is now almost 30 years.
Oh, wow. I was always wondering, how did you get to that? How you get to this level of perfection, guidance? It's like, wow. You had your teachers too. Wow.
We all have teachers, Tatiana. And the key is never to stop learning.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go to the markets. I know, and I've been there. New York was one of the most attractive real estate markets for decades. Comparing to any kind of real estate, London, Paris, you name it. New York was the number one. For a couple of years, the situation started slowing down, right?
Yes.
And what is going on now? How we going to survive that?
Well, you know, like they say, you know, sometimes you have to reach bottom to know which way is up. And I think in New York, you know, even just last night, I was watching the news, and we gone from COVID-19, complete shutdown of the city, to all the protesters and a lot of violence that ensued from that. So it's unfortunately it's the latest incidents of the looting and high-end shops being boarded up, and driving and walking through 57th Avenue and Madison, and you know, just very high-end districts. It's real. It's kind of sad. I know it will go away. And I was happy to be speaking to actually someone from the West Coast who was telling me that their high-end shop district, they were taking down all those, boards and whatnot, and coming back to some kind of normalcy. So we are just re-entering phase 1 of COVID-19. That was yesterday, June 8th. So we anticipate to open our offices on the 22nd of June. There is different sectors of the market that are being impacted differently, like anything else, whether it's a natural disaster or a pandemic, or the rallies that are happening that are unfortunately causing damage to some areas of the city. Are people there are three things that we need as humans. We need shelter, we need food, and we need to cover ourselves, right? To be living in society. And New York City is like anywhere else, but we are incredibly resilient. And even through this whole period, I mean, at the first week when COVID-19 started, we were 90% down on our market, which was, basically shut down.
Yeah.
Last month, we ended up at 85%. So we went up 10%. And we have seen, thank goodness, a lot of movement in the tri-state area and in the suburbs of New York. So from a company as a whole, we're blessed to have offices in those markets that are kind of subsidizing the loss of revenues for New York City.
That's my question, next question, actually, because that's how it feels. A lot of people start migrating from the big cities, and it's happening everywhere. It's happening in France, it's happening in London. They really doesn't want to be in the middle of the whole drama when it's happening. And New York, like we were saying, it's the capital of the world.
But what's really it still is, and it will continue to be.
Correct. I'm wrong.
But what I think, like everything else, just like there are phases that we go through in extreme circumstances like this one. And what we are seeing, for instance, and again, is depending on what newspaper you read or what TV news channel you listen to, you're going to get all kinds of information. I think there are things that are really important for anyone who's in the business or is involved in it as a consumer, buyer, seller, or a real estate professional, is to now more than ever, you need to be working with people who are very, very professional and having depth knowledge of their business and their market. Because where there is this level of streams, there is going to be people that are going to want to take advantage of the opportunity, right? Somebody's loss is somebody else's gain. So it's important to work with someone who understands your market, who's been there in that market, surrounded by a company that is well established, that helps them navigate what's real and what's not, but more importantly, what is temporary and what's not. Because for us, after September 11th, which two complete different set of circumstances, but definitely devastating and extreme, a lot of people left the city for safety reasons, and they slowly, as they regain their confidence, they came back. We anticipate that there is going to be a similar behavior. What we're seeing is people who were in rentals, perhaps they're not renewing the rentals, and if they were considering buying in New York, maybe they're buying outside of the city, and because they can get more. But again, it has to do neighborhood and your finances. Some people are deciding, you know what, we're going to buy the house in the country, maybe now that the business world is changing and companies are understanding that it's not so bad to be able to perform and work remotely, they might stay in the country but keep an apartment, a rental in the city, to avoid the commutes and whatnot. So I think we're going to see a lot of shift and changes in our industry, but it's going to be through a period of time. And I don't think right now it would be the same that if you were to ask me, what do you think of the market values right now? There is no way for any responsible person in our industry to be able to say this value.
Right, I'm going to drop by 15% or 20%.
You can. I think it's going to be the buyer and seller that is out there in the marketplace right now is somebody, mainly end consumers, who need a place to stay, whether it's through a job transfer, a job loss, or it's just the right time for them to do that and execute that. You know, you've been living in a studio apartment and all of a sudden that one baby came to and they were twins, you need more space. You're going to have to move. And whether there is all these outside influences, you still need to make that change. So
any ideas about different areas of Manhattan, Brooklyn, what is going to develop more, what is going to go to rest?
Well, we saw a very quick uptick on the townhouse market, which had been depressed for a while because a lot of people were rethinking, wait a minute, there is some value to live in a townhouse in the city and not in a high rise and having to go through public spaces and be with larger crowds. So, and I think that was a great boost for that section of the market. We also are seeing a lot more traffic on the smaller buildings than the larger buildings. And if you look at the new development projects and the new inventory, those are very large projects. And you cannot longer, at least for now, use all the amenities in that building. You start to maybe rethink, do I really need all those amenities in my home? Maybe I don't need them in my home. I can go to the gym somewhere else. Or you know, so again, I think for us as real estate professionals, our main, at least what I'm telling my salespeople at this time, is that the most important thing that they can be doing is helping our clients and our customers and listen to learn consumer behavior, because we're changing the way we do business. We can expect them to overnight understand. Like I heard, for example, that in some parts of Connecticut, for instance, they are open for business and they can do showings and whatnot. And they're at the phase now where they can do open houses. And it's very interesting because there's a group of people that are anxious to go out there and start doing open houses and going to open houses. And then you have the other group that is saying, is it that safe for us to really do that? And maybe we change that practice. Is it necessary to have open houses to sell property? Yeah. So I think those are going to be things that, again, just like pricing, is going to be a time process of maybe 18 months, a year. You know, to change a personal behavior, it takes about 8 weeks. Imagine changing business behaviors. I would imagine that it takes 8 months instead of 8 weeks. To reprogram the consumer to, we don't do it that way anymore. We need to do it this way.
So the real impact of the whole situation we probably will see in a year.
More than a year, yes.
More than a year.
I take. And because it's all going to be, I don't think that they're overnight, the cities are going to say to us, oh, you no longer need a mask. You no longer need 6 feet of distancing. And I don't know, is this transition going to be organic, or is it going to be so structured and organized as we have had it up until now? You know, so it's all of those unknowns. And I think we're seeing so many changes from every level, you know.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Everything is changing from the way how people say hello to each other. What
I
do you
know.
expect from real estate?
Look, you know, we might end up in a culture that doesn't shake hands anymore. Who knows?
I know, I know. Can you tell me what do you like about real estate?
Oh my goodness. I like looking at houses. No, just kidding. I love, who doesn't love real estate? For me, what I like the most is that for a very small window of time where you're working with a buyer or seller, you become part of their family, part of their inner circle. And you provide such a personal, intimate service. And people confide in you, they trust you. And some people will trust you more than they trust their own spouses or relatives. I think that is a gift that our clients give us. You know, it's something that we should never take for granted. I think part of the attitude and personality I took going into real estate, when I went into real estate, believe you me, being a real estate agent was worse than being in those days. The analogy was that if you were a car salesman, you were like at the bottom.
Right.
And it was very conflicting for me transitioning into real estate, thinking, is that how people view me and perceive me? And very quickly I learned, and with a lot of support from my husband, who is my best friend, and from professionals, the support that I was getting from colleagues from my prior world in the hotel industry, and you know, interact with professionals, was that, Ellie, we know that you can make a difference in this business, and just think of how do you want to be treated, how do you want to be perceived. And Tatiana, you might remember that one of my biggest lines, and I do that during interviewing process, is that I tell people, you are not only representing yourself or this brand, you are an extension of every single member of my sales team, including myself. And when you have a brand like Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, and you have Warren Buffett as the icon, the symbol of the face, right, of Berkshire Hathaway Inc., and we are part of that family.
I'm not saying that I work for the most important guy.
But you know, for me, what is beautiful is that what I have learned in my almost 4 years in this company is that they truly, people talk about mission statements and core values, and what is your company's philosophy, and what is your company's culture. And some people with plaques and and slogans and whatnot, but I have to tell you, this is the first that I able to really experience the real depth of what it means to have a culture. And I remember when I opened our offices in New York City, where I was asked, well, how is your company different? How is your culture different from everyone else? Because everybody has a beautiful statement. And I'll never forget, and this came from my marketing director at the time, who she's no longer with me. She has a family and a beautiful new little baby girl, but we remain very close friends. And she said, Ellie, what you do with this brand and in this company is that we have been able to create an environment in our space, in our offices in New York, and I think it spreads throughout this company, that it allows real estate professionals, we bring the best out in people at every level, whether you are the corporate part of the company or as an independent contractor. I think we attract a certain level of talent that already comes with a moral compass that is aligned with the core values of our company, with the culture of the company. And I think the consumer sees that.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree with you. I remember we had this conversation with agents actually, when you just opened in New York, and we were talking with each other, and we are saying like, "This is amazing! It's so easy to talk with each other. We like so similar. We have this openness, and we have this easiness to and approachables. No one is with the big crowd. You can talk with anyone." And I was amazed when I came here as well. It's exactly the same feeling that I have here. It's everyone is very supportive, and there is some kind of like this kindness that comes with it. So which is really I love about this brand. Absolutely.
I know. I think if you look at if you're a Berkshire Hathaway Home Services agent and you look at our resource center on the video sections, there's a beautiful new video from Chris Tour, and it's called The Halo Effect. And it is the halo effect of this company that not that we're angels. And look, you were talking about how I was able to manage different people, different personalities, different price points, different everything, right? And I think part of that is that I feel that I work in a space when I am allowed to be authentic, to be truly who I am. And I treat my salespeople as unique and having their own talents instead of creating and fostering unhealthy competition. I mean, you are independent contractors. You are going to have competition, but it's healthy competition, an environment where, you know, even us in management, we get challenged against each other, whether it's one office, one market, one manager, sales volumes, or recruiting, or, you know, listing inventory. We want that kind of healthy competition because we are in sales, and that's what drives us, that energy of wanting to do better without having to destroy someone else or take over somebody else's opportunities, because there's plenty for all of us.
Absolutely. What do you hate in real estate?
What do I hate is a very strong word.
Okay, what you don't like in real estate?
I think what sometimes upsets me or takes away my serenity, you know, my sanity, is when I see unethical misbehavior from colleagues, whether it's known or conscious or subconscious, and when and I'm always I like to think that I'm a very just person, and to me, especially, I love the thrill of negotiating. Obviously, that's what makes you successful as well. But again, there is a healthy way to negotiate and be strong and succeed, and without cutting corners, without being unethical, without using bad business practices. You know, I think if you really know your product and your every aspect of your business to execute a transaction from beginning to the end and provide the highest level of service. You know, a seller wants to sell high and get as much profit as possible. A buyer wants to buy in the lowest possible number so that they can feel like they obtain. And when every once in a while, unfortunately, human behaviors get in the way, and greed sometimes is difficult for me, being in this profession, because and I have to detach myself professionally. Emotionally is when I get impacted. But why do consumers hire real estate professionals? Because our job is to separate that emotion from a transaction so that we can be strong negotiators, so we can deliver the highest and best value for all of our clients. So yeah, that's what I dislike, is when you get stuck in that environment where you know there is a better, simpler way to do it and still gain from it. And you cannot, you have to play the poker face, and you have to maintain the respect that your client deserves, that this is not personal, it's not about me, and I'm not here to judge your lifestyle or your process of how you negotiate. I have to decide whether I want to adapt to that practice or not. And when you get to be quite successful and have opportunities to be discerning with your clientele, that's one of the long-term gifts of this industry, that we are able to say, I don't think I'm going to take this assignment from this client because I don't think I'm the right fit, but I have a colleague or a friend that I think their personalities or their business style is going to be perfect. And this is why we develop these relationships also internally through our networks. And that's another amazing gift that we have as a company, that we have offices all over the world and growing. We have north of 50,000 real estate professionals that I know if I call you in Los Angeles, my friend, my client, my relative, you're going to do an amazing job. I don't have to worry.
Yep, I absolutely agree with you. Ellie, thank you so much. I know you're a very busy person, and I appreciate so much that you found this time to give me this little interview. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Oh, you're amazing. Thank you, Tatiana. It was an honor to be a little bit of service to you with everything that you've done for us.
Thank you. Thank you, Ellie. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.